then people quit fighting. And mass adoption of what I'm talking about is happening. And it is the solution. And when I say this, and I'm happy to debate anybody who wants to debate, like if they think that what I'm saying is an overreach, let's talk about it, because we're setting up these systems all over the world to demonstrate the power of nature. It's infinite.
Hi everyone, welcome to Now Boarding, a new travel podcast by me, Payal Nayar. This show aims at creating awareness about ecotourism, sustainable tourism, responsible travel, and a lot more. We will cover stories and journeys of people who are ecotourism specialists and those who are leaders in their field. We will also be talking to people who have had unique travel experiences, remarkable conceptual places to stay, unexplored cultures, and ancient histories of various towns and cities around the world. Join me in this journey of knowing more about travel. Get inspired to see the world and discover your inner self. Hi everyone. Today I am in conversation with Jim Gale. Jim is the founder of Food Forest Abundance, which is a company that he's going to talk a lot more about in this conversation. I just want to add here that Jim is a passionate advocate, teacher, and speaker for the decentralization of society's most important pillars. And we all know what those pillars are. It's food, water, energy, money, medicine, and education. Thank you so much for joining me this morning for you and this evening for me, Jim.
Well, thank you, Payal. It's wonderful to be here chatting with you and sharing these messages of abundance and hope and joy with everybody listening. You know, when we simply take the poisons out of our lives and of our land, when we use our land wisely, when we design our land to be productive, we solve all, and I mean this so sincerely, mass extinction, deforestation, cancer, diabetes, heart disease. We end world hunger and we end tyranny when we take the poisons out and use our resources wisely.
Absolutely. So is that what inspired you to start Food Forest Abundance?
What inspired me most is the fact that I have 4 daughters. And when I started asking questions, when I started learning what was happening around the world with the poisons and the poison producers and the insane use of our resources, I went into a period of scarcity because I was asking the question, what's the world going to be like for my daughters and my grandkids? And it went into, I got a little bit of a fear base out of that until I let that go. And so that's my inspiration, my primary. But I love all life. I've traveled in 37 countries. I've lived all over, and I love people. And so I've got a lot of motivations, but of course my daughters are number one.
Oh, that's I'm sure they've heard it, or have they heard it enough from you?
Oh, yeah.
And how do they feel about it?
It's amazing. You know, we're building this off-grid community here in Central Florida where we produce all of our own food, water, and energy, and we're on a private lake. We've got, it's turning into paradise in Central Florida. And my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, she was the one that was like, I don't want to live out there on a farm and all that. And the other day, we were driving home from an event at Galt's. We have a tennis court. We've put in a volleyball court, and it's so beautiful. And for the first time, she said, I want to move to Galt's right away. And I almost started bawling.
Wow. Oh, wow. So are you a permaculture designer?
Yes, I am a permaculture designer. Permaculture stands for permanent culture, right? It's an agricultural design science that layers out how we take our landscape and we create massive abundance. You know, for instance, our land at Galt's Landing, I'm not a farmer, by the way, and I don't grow plants, right? I simply design the land with help of professional designers on our team to be productive. And then we put the plants in the ground. We invite these living things to live with us. And they're like free energy systems. They keep producing more and more abundance. So we have 230 types of perennial plants that right now, just about 17 months in, we can walk out and we can get all of the food that multiple families need to thrive within 5 or 10 minutes. And it's no maintenance. It's incredibly easy to create abundance.
And what about climate change? Because, we all know that it is a pressing issue for the entire planet at the moment. So how does permaculture actually contribute to climate resilience and adaptation in agriculture as well as design?
Well, there's a new government-led scam called carbon offsetting, and it's a way to monetize and politicize climate. And what they're doing is all the money is funneling up to these corporations, which is essentially the same as government now. And it's a way to control the action of the people. When we carbon inset, when we plant fruit trees and edible landscapes, and when we build soil is carbon and it's life. When we actually put a permaculture food forest in the ground, as the trees grow and build soil, it is the most incredible carbon inset, and it solves way more problems than just this silly scam that they're running.
So can you talk a little bit about some of your projects? I know there's one that you're currently, I'm assuming, living in, but what are the different kinds of projects that you've actually worked on? Some of them could be on a smaller scale, some could be on a larger scale. So if it's a smaller scale, how does that work versus a larger scale? What are the kind of things that you need to implement in order for it to be successful?
Everything starts with a thoughtful permaculture design. So we can take an area of 100 square meters or 1,000 square feet, or we can take an area the size of a country. And we can design in based on the agricultural zone and based on the microclimates of the area. And I'll get a little deeper into this. So every zone in the world is basically like, if you go to Minnesota, you've got certain plants that thrive in Minnesota. If you go to Poland or Saudi Arabia or Israel or any country in the world, though they have agricultural zones. And there are in fact, there are over 100,000 named and identified food producing plants. Most people can only name 40 or 50.
100,000.
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And truly, it's kind of infinite because every plant has its own variation, a lot like people, right? So in a way, it's infinite, but there are over 100,000 actually identified. And every zone has way more than people realize. So in fact, I'll give you an example. Here, I have 230 different types of food producing plants. And within 3 years, I'll have over 1,000 different varieties of food producing plants at Galt's Landing, at my home. Where my partner in Minnesota, a friend of mine, he has over 300. His food forest is 5 years old. Mine's about 2 years old. His food forest in northern Minnesota, where a lot of my friends live, and they think that you can't grow food in Minnesota, is epic. It's paradise. And one of the beauties of a food forest is it's expansive. It's a free energy system. It's regenerative. So if you have a food forest in a park, let's say, over the years, the birds, the wind, the rain, the water, the animals will come into that park. They will eat the plants and the seeds, and then a bird will fly over here, and all of a sudden a new blueberry bush will be under the bird's nest. So it's expansive.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. So what happens with insects, or how do you kind of control that aspect of nature when you have a forest? Because that again is a natural phenomena, right? And you would have insects trying to feed themselves or whatever it may be, which may cause damage. So how do you control that? What is the methodology for that?
I love it. These are such relevant questions to what people believe. So I'll point to a forest, right? Have you ever walked through a beautiful forest?
If
And
I may just interrupt here, I live, so I mean, it's night, so I can't really show it to you, but across the street from me, from where I am at the moment, is forest, is jungle. And I don't know if you've ever been to Singapore, but
yes,
Singapore, you have. Okay, so then I don't really need to explain this, but there are nature reserves. In fact, I live across the street from a nature reserve. And so, we do trails and walks, and we are in sync with nature. I mean, I'm walking, I see a monitor lizard, or animals, insects, butterflies, birds. I mean, it's all there. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
yeah,
And
and where I'm going.
yeah, yeah.
My question is, who manages that system?
It's the national parks.
Yeah, but who manages the insects?
The insects. Okay. You have
Nobody.
nobody. Yeah.
Nature. So there's this idea that we have been programmed with about control. And that idea is an illusion. We don't control anything. We simply create habitat for nature to live in balance. That's the key, right? Diversity is the foundation of strength. And through the diversity that we have designed in, the balance is just automatic. Nature takes care of herself when you have diversity. And that's why these monocultures, when you're in an airplane and you're looking down and there's different patches of hundreds of acres of land, every one of them has one crop in a different color. And it's like, it's incredibly unnatural and incredibly destructive. Everything we know about growing food, as far as taught in the universities and colleges around the world, is wrong. It's a lie. When we simply take the food back into our yards, into our community centers, our parks, our schools, our prisons, and we start using that lawn or land instead of growing lawns. Right here in the United States, there are over 44 million acres of lawn. The lawn is the most destructive crop in the world, taking more poisons and chemicals and human resources than any other crop. So if all we did were take the poisons out and transition half of that lawn, 20 million acres, that 20 million acres could feed 2/3 of the United States population by itself.
So how do you educate the people? Because, for you, I guess it's what you have and the people who approach you to help with their permaculture and their forest abundance. So how do you send the messaging to a larger community of people so that the impact is a lot wider than what it possibly currently is?
Exactly like we are doing now. We thank you for sharing this message. We started out about 27 months ago, maybe 28 months ago now. It was Earth Day 2021. And a fellow named Del Bigtree had a show called The High Wire. And he put out a 30-minute show demonstrating the solution that I'm referring to. And we are now serving people in 54 countries and 50 US states 27 months later. It's incredible. It's massive expansion. We are inspiring and empowering people to take the poisons out and grow food around their homes.
Wow, that's amazing. So what is your ultimate mission and goal?
World peace.
World peace.
Yeah, peace on earth, because when you stand in a living food forest and you see the butterflies going by and the hummingbirds and you feel the symphony of life, it's like a sensory explosion of abundance and joy. And it completely blows away the myth of scarcity. Scarcity is a lie. Fear is a poison. when we recognize the bounty and abundance of our natural system and design that system into our landscapes, then the scarcity goes away. And when scarcity goes away and fear goes away, then people quit fighting. And mass adoption of what I'm talking about is happening. And it is the solution. And when I say this, and I'm happy to debate anybody who wants to debate, like if they think that what I'm saying is an overreach, let's talk about it, because we're setting up these systems all over the world to demonstrate the power of nature. It's infinite.
And so you feel that the community, because obviously you are helping educate people, so you think the community engagement plays a very important role in your work?
It's the only way.
It's the only
Yes,
way.
I switched, a lot of people say top down and they think government's the top and the people are the bottom. No, people are the top. People, the individuals listening to us right now, are responsible for their lives and that of their kids. And when we can help convey that this is the way to take responsibility for your individual health and the health of your family, and then what happens is, as you start eating these healthy foods and demonstrating this way, this regenerative, lovely way of living, then the neighbors come around and the friends and family come around. They're like, I can't believe how beautiful this is. We've had over 1,000 visitors just in the last few months at Galt's Landing. 100% of people have left there inspired and empowered to do something in their lives. And this is mass adoption when we combine the social media influencers and the politicians that are ethical and want to actually help the world. And we then reach out to the corporations who are providing the poisons and selling the poisons. Even though, like, I'll take glyphosate and Monsanto for one, they've been sued for billions of dollars under criminal lawsuits, and they've paid it out with the contingency that they can keep the poisons on the shelf at Home Depot and other places. So we're helping to expose that. And at the same time as we're exposing the poisons and the poison producers, we're offering a solution. If the companies that currently spread poisons cleaned out their vats and put compost tea with worm castings and other beneficial ingredients in those vats and went around spraying that, life would explode on this planet again.
Yeah, but I know it's incredible that there has to be a start, right? And the fact that you are so passionate, I can hear it in your voice. And I mean, obviously I've researched you, and so I know the kind of work that you're doing, and I think it's incredible. And there have to be more and more and more people like you who believe in this change. And I understand that, as you mentioned, the community plays a very important role, but to be able to implement it, there also has to be understanding of permaculture and what it actually means and all that goes into it. So I think it's one step at a time, but I'm really, really pleased to see how you're progressing with it. And I'm sure, through my channel, or I'm sure you talk to a lot of people, you're able to communicate this. So you mentioned that your forest, can I call it forest abundance? Yes?
Yeah, food forest abundance.
Food forest abundance. So it's called, I think you mentioned a few times that it's called God's Landing, correct?
Galt's, Galts, Galt's Landing.
Oh, Galt's Landing, not because it came. I mean, I kept thinking, oh, is it really God's Landing? So no, okay. So what Galt's is? What is it?
So there's a character in a book called Atlas Shrugged,
and it was Atlas Shrugged. Yes, yes.
Okay, 20th best-selling book in the history of the world. It's about the power that an individual has who has a belief and a mission to do good and to bring service to humanity. And ultimately, that's what this is all about. And in a system of abundance like we live in, when we serve people, then there's an exchange of value. There's an exchange of service, whether it happens immediately or down the line. So my intention and our intention as a network is to serve humanity. And by doing so, amazing things are coming our way. I was just invited to be mayor of Orlando, and by some really prominent people, and amazing energy has went around that. Now, I learned yesterday that I can't be mayor of Orlando simply because I've never registered to vote. And you have to be a registered voter for 12 months to be eligible to be mayor of Orlando, which I think is really an interesting stipulation. But the point is now we have people writing screenplays, people writing books, people doing TV shows and movies, and all of these amazing people coming together for permaculture, because this is not a hypothetical solution to all of the world's biggest problems and the individual's problems and the family's problems. It's a demonstratable solution. So the more people that we can help become demonstrators, and it's actually that's what we've done, is we've broken it down into a simple process. If anybody wants to demonstrate abundance in your yard, which is, by the way, the best investment I've ever made, there's never been a fruit tree or a berry bush that I purchased and put in the ground that did not triple in value in the first 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Simply by the size of the tree. And then once they become productive, it's, you can count the seeds in an apple, but you cannot count the apples in a seed. It's infinite.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That makes so much sense. I mean, I had to sort of stop for a second to absorb what you just said, but no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jim. I mean, I would just be happy to continue to listen to you and you share all the wonderful work that you are doing, and your mission is so clear, and I wish you all the very best. And I've really, really enjoyed this conversation with you. Thank you. And I'm hoping that through my channel as well, you're able to reach out to a different audience, and a larger audience maybe. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Payal, it's been a pleasure. And if for anybody listening, if you want to be involved, just get a hold of us. This is what we do. We're like the mycelial network. We connect all of the solution providers to change the world.
Amazing. I'm sure there's going to be an impact. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Payal.
Wonderful day. Thank you, Jim.
You too.
Hope you enjoyed this episode of Now Boarding, a travel podcast. Check out other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And of course, don't forget to share your thoughts with us. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes only on Now Boarding, a travel podcast.